All right. All right. Welcome everybody to the AI Conformance meeting. Today is February 26th, 2026. And before we begin, just a quick reminder that this meeting is governed by the CNC of Code of Conduct. Please be kind, constructive, and then the meeting is recorded. So with that, let's jump to the agenda. Uh, let's see, just a few updates. In case you haven't been seeing all the notifications. Uh, this, I guess, like the working group is now transitioning as a SIG Arch sub-project. Lots of folks are working around getting that moved over. And just sort of announcement is, if you haven't done so, you will need to join the SIG Arch mailing list to get future meeting invite updates after the transition, right? Unfortunately, we can't just bulk migrate everybody due to GDPR. All right, and I'm sure we'll make another announcement once we're close to it. All right, any updates from other leads about the transition? I know it's still a work in progress. Going once, going twice. Okay. Next we have automated tests. As we said in the past, we want to make sure we have at least one requirement with automated test for 136. And as you can see, these are good work that's already in progress. Thanks to Janet. There's a lot of conversations around getting resources for CI, as well as actually getting the jobs added to the infrastructure. Janet, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, so the first PR is a test, a simple test for the secure accelerator access. And not this one, the one above. So I need to polish the code more. I need to do some more testing and make sure it supports other platform as well. But we can look at the README, maybe look at the README first. And then, so this documents how people can run it, a test. So it should be pretty simple that they can just run using Go. There's no other specific tools they need to install. And then there's also a section in around line 25. I talked about if the platform use a different hardware or software not covered by the test, they can file an issue to request support. And then before that's added to the test, they can certify manually using the old way. And then for the vendors whose platform is NA, for some questions, they can just opt out. And then they can just opt out by, maybe we can add some flags for which ones they can opt out. Yeah, so this is the gist of that. I still need to polish this PR, but if you are interested, you can take a look.
Jack?
Could we get like two or three already Conformant cloud providers or distros to sign up to run this test in their environments just to validate? I could definitely volunteer resources for Azure so we can get like a round robin thumbs up. And then maybe in a follow-up round, more folks can do it. So it's not all on you, Janet. Like write the tests themselves.
Thanks.
All right, let's definitely continue the conversation and coordination through Slack so we can make more progress on this one. All right, anything else on this, Janet?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. Love the progress. And then the next thing is for 136, there are 3 PRs that have been open for discussion and review. So if you have any concerns, feedback for how these requirements are written, and how the test will run both manually as well as automated, this is a great time to chime in. And if, uh, yeah, so any questions or anybody wants to raise their hand if they want to discuss anything, uh, that's of concern on this call? Okay, I don't see any hand up. Um, I think we did also talk about these three in the last meeting. I think there were concerns and whatnot, but yeah, the best place to raise those concerns is definitely in the PR. And again, I think a lot of concerns have been addressed in the PRs themselves, but please take a look. Uh, we definitely want to make sure your voice is heard. All right, if there's nothing else on the shoulds for 136, for 130, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi guys. So just maybe one question. I didn't get the chance to kind of review all of the shoots, but my like one question for disaggregated inference actually. I know we kind of tried to introduce new requirements for the AI conformance. Wondering like I know because from my understanding there are several discussions happening on the inference side of things. I know also like folks from previously working on observing like the leader worker set community tried to introduce new API soon. I'm kind of curious, like, how do we think we should process here, given that even lead worker sets out of the box doesn't support this well? And what are your thoughts on this?
But specifically, which car are you referring to?
Yeah, like specifically, disaggregated inference, because from my understanding today, like LMZ, how it implements there, it kind of like deploy multiple leader worker set for prefill and decode together. So you can basically build this inference pipeline. And I haven't followed all the discussion there, but from my knowledge, folks from lead worker set community want to design new high-level APIs soon, which means like specifically covered for those kind of complex use cases. Wondering like, because we want to do this for 1.36, like will these requirements will be changed dramatically, like after this new API will be introduced?
I think I think we can include the leader worker set community to invite them to comment on the PR to see if there's anything that they think should be included for to make it more forward looking and future compatible. But if
Mhm.
anything, we can always uh, refine the language before it moves to must.
Fuja?
Yeah, I like the idea of pinging maybe the people involved. But I think at least from what I saw, how we phrased it right now, we didn't really go into the technical that much, more about like it should be able, right? So it's just about more the end-to-end result of it, not which APIs are used right now, because currently everyone's basically implementing it differently, right?
Hmm.
That's sadly the current status. So I think once we have a better standard, as you said, with the leader worker set successor, then we should maybe also push for that, similar to how we are pushing for DRA in those areas where it's available, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I guess like, we don't really, from my understanding right now, plan to have tests for shoots, right? So it's kind of, self-tested by the platform admins. Yeah,
Well,
but it will, yeah.
just a clarification, like it's the manual test, and it still needs to be tested. It's just it's manually tested. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean like there's nothing to test, right? Like that's why how we might test it is important because uh when the vendor submits their conformance PR, they still need to show that I have manually tested uh this based on what we're saying here, right? This is why questions around like, hey, are we actually validating the disaggregated serving solution that you support? Does it actually is it actually disaggregating the prefill and the decoding into different workloads, different pods. Like that's one example, right? And things like, is it actually getting a expected latency or throughput, right? That's much harder to test, obviously, but it kind of goes into why are we saying that your platform needs disaggregated serving, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, people
Yeah.
can just dump something and they call it disaggregated serving, right?
Yeah, but I guess like like at least we should have a clear requirements. What does it mean, right? Because here we talking about solutions like Dynamo or LLMD, right? Which have
Mhm.
their own way to implement multiple instances for prefill and decode. But maybe like explaining what do we mean here? Like, do we mean that platform admins have to use these solutions, or for example, if they have their own like operator or orchestration for dedicated inference, right? Can they also be conformant with this shoot? Um, I think right now it's a bit unclear.
Right, like how do they actually demonstrate?
Yep. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
also, this is my comment as well, right? It's not clear to me right now.
Yeah, I think one aspect I want to showcase is that the platform's infra can support running such solutions. So uh, that's part of the goal of being able to run and deploy a solution and being able to um, pass some tests for either a query or more sophisticated tests that showcase that the disaggregated serving is inferencing is working on the platform supported by its infra.
Right, and I think this was kind of where I was getting at here, right? Is if the intent is to show that the infra supports this, I guess like in your mind, what are the infra bits that needs to be tested, right? Like for example, I mentioned low latency pod to pod communication, right? That is actually pretty, but you could even argue even without that, you could run disaggregated serving. It's just like to your point, if what you're trying to validate is low latency pod to pod communication, that's actually CAR 10, right? Like that is addressed in CAR 10. So the other thing about this is like, are you saying does the platform allow any user to just deploy their own like CRDs, right? That has a disaggregated serving solution, right? So that's like similar to uh, this other car that we've had in the past, right? The Prometheus one, I think, or that was another one, I think, right?
The game scheduling
The
one.
game schedule, sorry. Yeah. So I feel like if those are the sort of the infra requirements, they have been addressed in other cars. So what is unique about disaggregated inference here?
We also want to
Um,
did someone say anything?
yes, sorry, Jenny, go ahead. Go first.
Yeah, we also want to demonstrate that signal the people that you can run this aggregated inference on Kubernetes. It's part of the AI conformance, how we make sure that the cluster can support common AI workloads. And this is one of the common AI workloads I want to demonstrate that we can, we want the platforms to support it.
Right, but I think with other cars in place, if the platform supports those cars, I would argue then they should be able to run this aggregated serving solutions, right? Like so it kind of goes back to my question, like what's the unique infrastructure bit that the platform needs to support for disaggregated inference?
This is complementary. So both the other cars can form a complete story with this one. but I can refine the language further because maybe I need to go back to read all the review comments and then update the car.
Yeah, I think I think where I'm getting at is if it is purely about the infra, then I feel like a lot of that has been addressed with other cars, right? But if your goal is, hey, we we need to show like if the platform is AI conformant, then they must offer something for disaggregated serving. Like that's a little bit different, right? One is saying your infra is good enough to support disaggregated serving. Another one is saying you must offer a disaggregated serving solution out of the box or something to that extent, which I feel like is kind of where you're going with this. Um, but I think the concern, what I've heard from others as well, is this this part of our ecosystem is very uh, messy right now, and there's no standard. There's a lot of different solutions that tries to do the same thing, right? So while we can say like, hey, to be AI conformant, you should offer a disaggregated serving solution, but there's like no good way to really test it and to validate that your platform is actually meeting the needs of the user, unless we have some kind of standard.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the GAN scheduling one, but that one is now more clear because we have an upstream common API.
That's right.
So
So I think
hope,
we need a common API for for inference. Yeah,
yeah, so hope we can have something like this to standardize further. But before that, this can only, you cannot specify the specific API or abstraction layer yet.
that's right.
Yeah, I think I agree here. I think, explaining, so with the gang scaling, I think it's might be slightly easier because I think in the gang scaling, right, we just say directly all or nothing, right? Which means like we can basically your platform should have a capability to scale a group of pods as a single unit, right? And allocate resources based on the scheduling constraints. I think instead of, yeah, in this kind of requirements, if we focus on what actually platform needs to do, right? Because, instead of talking about, VLLM or Dynamo or LMD, maybe also would be better. We can definitely provide examples, right? Like how inference engines like HGLine or VLM or TensorRT implements this, but at the same time explaining platform providers what is needed is important, right? For these requirements, I feel like, and maybe like readable your language also it maybe will make it more clear. But yeah, focusing on infrastructure pieces is important, right? Even before we have like like the standardized API. Um, yeah, because the question like, will we have the standardized API, right? Because leader worker set is like out of the Kubernetes core API, right? Now similar to job set today, like, and we don't know like what will happen in the next couple of years. Yeah. So anyway, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Any other comments on this one or any of the other cars? So are we all good with the other two? Okay, all right, well, if there's nothing else, definitely take a look at these when when you have some time. All right, the next topic is before 137, right? As we said, since by 137, we want to make sure that we have automated tests for all the musts, right? So given that we want to make sure before 137, we will have CI for all the automated tests. And we will also work on backfilling a lot of the existing cars and adding the automated tests for all the existing buses, right? So definitely, uh, need volunteers here. If you have bandwidth, and this is a really great way to see how see and shape how future cars will get added to the conformance program. All right. So definitely let us know if you want to help either here or in the Slack channel.
Yeah, I want to add something about the CI. So my plan is that um, there's a testing fraud repo that you can specify the CI jobs. So I plan to have that target our AI conformance repo,
Mhm.
then put the test there. So every PR change will trigger a pre-submit. And then we also run periodics.
Yep.
And based on my estimation, the cost of the GPU shouldn't be too high. And then I filed a request. I got several approvals already. So I think we should be on track. So hopefully we can get the first test in running at CI. Then it's probably going to be easier for others to add more tests.
Awesome. All right. Anything else for this one?
Sorry, just a quick question. So I guess the scaffolding will be in a test infra, right? Similar how we run tests for other, Kubernetes 6 or Kubernetes projects. But the actual tests will be in the working group, right, repo? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw one of the secure accelerator access PR,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess we discuss I think in the doc that we're not going to use this. So we're going to use just Ginkgo, right? And the default Golang uh, tests, right, suits to run them. At least this is what I saw in your PR, Janet, like the one that you created, right?
Yeah, I think it should be easy enough for folks to run this.
Mhm. I guess the infrastructure, we also have an answer, right, for it, like how we ensure we have GPUs or the array drivers installed um, in the CI. I think I'm asking about Kubernetes specific infrastructure if I have all the required compute there.
Right. I think that there are some existing projects for on both GCP and AWS for GPU resources. They use that for running the device plugin tests. So we can
Okay.
utilize those GPU projects. And then Rita, do you want to talk about the discussion about whether the test should be release blocking for Kubernetes?
I think so far the conversation is we will basically mimic what we currently do for Kubernetes conformance test suite, which basically TLDR is, uh, once a test is added to the conformance test suite, then um, it's basically it must be met, right? It must work, right? In as release blocking because the expectation is if I'm a vendor and I take say 137 and I run it, it should work, right? Um, so the idea is if the test is not passing, then we don't add it to the test suite, right? But once it's passing, it gets added to the test suite, and from that point forward, it should be used to as release blocking in that sense, right? Did anyone have questions about this? Okay.
Just a quick question here. Like,
Mhm.
is there a way for us to have the vendor's flavor of Kubernetes hosted in our CI runner and then run these tests?
Sorry, can you repeat what you're?
So basically, like we are asking the vendors to run these tests and certify themselves.
Right, they need to show the
Rather is it
results. Mhm.
correct? Rather, is it possible for us to like onboard their flavor of Kubernetes and run these tests and like,
In Kubernetes upstream CI,
or in our GitHub CI, like as a part of our CI?
who's our GitHub CI?
No, the test infra. That's it.
Oh no, I mean test infra, you mean SIG test infra, right?
SIG test
Kubernetes.
infra. Yeah.
Yeah, I think usually that doesn't have any vendor specific stuff in there,
Okay.
as you would
Okay.
expect, right? Yeah, it's too hard to manage if we include all the vendor things. Good question. Any other feedback, comments? Going once, going twice.
And last one question, like
Okay.
how do we really know that they are telling the truth? If we let the vendors run these tests and like they say it's passing, how do we really know that?
I mean, so if you look at the Kubernetes conformance test results, usually vendors upload the test results to your point. It's an honor system also, right? Like if you're gonna fake it, then your users are gonna know anyway. So
Okay.
yeah. Pooja?
Yeah, I think it's both an honor system and theoretically you have to ensure that they can be replicated. With most vendors, that is possible, right? Like if you start an EKS cluster, that's quite easy to run the tests against, right? With some vendors, me included, it's not possible because it's private and you need a subscription or like Red Hat Enterprise, let's say. Right? But there we trust, and there might be, I think there was cases where CNCF was not trusting the vendor and actually required a demo to see it live because there was suspicion of these things.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. Um, any other comments? All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we kind of get 30 minutes back, and hopefully that's time for you to go look at those PRs and then let us know what you think. All right. All right. Thank you. Bye.